Greetings and welcome. How are we all feeling at the moment? Today's topic is on embarrassment and shame. And a lot of us think that shame is just a worse form of embarrassment. But actually the two are different. There's a difference between shame and embarrassment. And a lot of us withdraw socially because we are afraid of being embarrassed, experiencing shame, being rejected, being judged. And a lot of the time we seek pleasure and we want to avoid pain, but we'd rather avoid pain at the cost of pleasure. And that's just human nature. We don't like an attack on the self. We don't like it when we know we are at fault. We don't like it when other people are telling us that we are being inappropriate, and it's never intended to embarrass oneself or to experience shame. It just happens because we are imperfect human beings, and a lot of the time we go against our intentions. And it's something that we just have to feel from time to time. It's inevitable that you will experience embarrassment and shame in your life. It's a natural human emotion, and it happens when we step out of line, or we say something wrong, or we say something in front of the wrong person, or we say something in a way that wasn't meant. And the thing is, with embarrassment and shame, they are in accordance. They do have a relation, and that has to do with similar emotions that are felt. Emotions like rejection, emotions like feeling judged, and it's both embarrassment and shame are based on doing something that is not socially acceptable. And that's the thing. That's why a lot of people choose not to go out, not to connect. They choose disconnect. They choose isolation because they're afraid of shame and embarrassment. But you know what? Shame and embarrassment makes you relatable. It proves that you are imperfect and that we all make mistakes. It makes you a human being, a perfectly imperfect human being. So the difference is, embarrassment is doing something that is unacceptable, that people find very awkward, people might find inappropriate, people might find rude. Maybe you interrupted someone and they said something and then you're like, oh, I feel so embarrassed. Or maybe your shirt button isn't buttoned fully and then you feel embarrassed. And it's usually about going against societal norms. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you've done something wrong. Embarrassment is doing something that is not considered socially acceptable, but you didn't do it because you were malicious, or you wanted to manipulate someone, or you wanted to be rude, or you wanted to interrupt someone. It's more of, it doesn't affect your integrity, but it affects your self-esteem. On the other hand, shame is knowing you've done something wrong. When you have maliciously hurt someone and they have completely had a discussion with you and you feel ashamed by how you make other people feel. And shame is knowing that you've done something on a values-based level wrong. You have hurt someone, you have betrayed someone, you have done something that is shameful. And we usually feel ashamed when our integrity is attacked. It's like an attack. And we feel shame when we have done something beyond embarrassment, beyond feeling embarrassed, when you are shamed for a behavior or an intention or doing something that was completely unacceptable. Embarrassment is more like inappropriate. Shame is more like unacceptable. As I said, shame attacks your integrity, how you stand, your foundations, who you are, what your beliefs are. And it attacks your self-respect. It attacks the self, who you are, your integrity, and how you are able to feel shame, but also apologize for it. And when we feel ashamed, we want to run away. We hit the fight, flight, or freeze because we feel imminent danger because there's an attack on the self. But embarrassment is just an attack on self-esteem. How you feel about yourself in that moment, when you feel a little bit not disappointed, because disappointment would be more with shame, but you feel like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. Oh, I feel so bad. I feel so embarrassed. And that might make you feel like, oh, maybe I'm not such a good communicator. And it incites self-doubt. And that's what embarrassment causes. It causes an attack on how you feel about yourself. And you may not feel so good about yourself when you're being rejected or judged. Also, please keep in mind that embarrassment might last max a day or two, when you reflect back and you think, oh, I shouldn't have done that. But after a while, because it's not an attack on the self and the integrity, after a while you start getting over it. It's not as important or as prominent, because you didn't hurt someone's feelings. You didn't try and manipulate someone. So embarrassment does not last as long as shame. Embarrassment is a fleeting emotion. Shame is a state of mind. And a lot of people can experience shame for up to a lifetime. Remember, shame is going against values and morals, things that is determined by society as wrong, as bad, as toxic, as hurtful, as unacceptable. But embarrassment is more about going against societal norms, like don't interrupt someone, and also being able to express yourself in a way that will not create a self-esteem issue, to express yourself in a confident way. So embarrassment is more about going against norms and what is considered acceptable. Remember, acceptable and tolerable are two different things. And a common thing that shame does is it incites guilt. When you feel ashamed, that shame eventually evolves into guilt. And guilt can also last up to a lifetime, where you feel bad about yourself for doing something. And that can cause a lot of self-sabotage and a lot of self-destruction. We can only fear embarrassment and shame if we have experienced it in the past. If we have experienced the level and the intensity of the emotions that are experienced when we are put in a situation where we are embarrassed or when we are shamed. We learn about embarrassment and shame very early on in our lives. And we always want to avoid it. And shame and embarrassment, rejection and judgment are the main reasons why people struggle with self-isolating, and that is what causes social anxiety. Remember, embarrassment and shame are distinguishable, but we always try to avoid it. Remember, you can't avoid it. We are all imperfect communicators. Just own up to it and don't repress feelings of shame and guilt, because that is what's going to eat away at your mental health. So remember, you are unique and valuable. Take care of that stunning person. Stay strong wherever you're from. You are worthy.